everybody. Thank you guys for joining me. Today, I want to introduce you to Michael Barcena.
Yes,
is that correct?
Barcena. Yeah.
Barcena. Yeah, Michael Barcena. And he is my first guest on the podcast, Clinical Entrepreneur. So thank you, Michael, for joining me today. Michael is a 1099 registered nurse. And that's what we're celebrating today, the 1099 lifestyle and how a registered nurse becomes 1099 and what do they think about it, right? So that's what being a clinical entrepreneur is all about. So how you been doing, Michael?
I'm doing good. Today is like my first day of rest. I work like I was telling you right before we started, 6 days in a row. So I'm like a little bit, I'm awake, but I'm like waking up.
You're good. You look great. And so I understand that you've been 1099 for a little while. And I was really curious to know, how did that evolve?
So I stumbled, it was all on accident. So my actual start as a 1099 started back in 2010, but not as an RN, believe it or not. So I actually started 1099 as a LVN. Straight out of nursing school. One of my friends from school's dad owned a home health agency, and he said, "Hey, come work for me." And I jumped on the opportunity, and he goes, "All right, you'll come work with me, but you're getting 1099." And my whole mindset prior to that was like, well, isn't W-2, don't you need taxes taken out and blah 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 blah. But I started 1099 back in 2010 as an LVN.
That's so cool. So just at the very beginning of your practice,
I didn't even know I was doing it.
Isn't that neat? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I didn't know until I did my taxes. And then my tax person was telling me like, hey, well, the way you're doing it, like, what are your write-offs? And I was like, what are you talking about? and then that's when I slowly started learning, mileage and, like your clothes and, things for work.
Home office.
So the home office. Yes. The home office.
Yeah.
And, so I did it a couple years kind of without knowing. And then I became a W-2 employee for a couple years as I was trying to get my my RN. And after I got my RN, I stayed as a W-2 RN for 2 years, but I also did 1099 on the side as a home health nurse. And up until recently, I decided to make the full plunge when I became a little bit more aware of the benefits of 1099. I left my staff job, and now I'm just a nurse entrepreneur. I'm just trying to figure this out as I go,
I love it. And so what are the best benefits that you've found out so far? What are some of the benefits that you've found out about being a 1099 registered nurse?
Just the freedom to pick and choose when and where and with who you work. I've worked, like right now I'm doing 1099. I'm an emergency nurse by heart. Like I love the emergency room and all the rush that comes with it and getting people feeling better, like in such a short amount of time. Yeah. But I've done IV hydration therapy, home health, a lot of home health, and then wound care too. So like even now, if I want to do, I'm doing ER mainly, but if I get bored with that, which I doubt, but I can jump back into doing IV hydration where I'm driving. I live in Los Angeles, right? Los Angeles, California.
Oh, nice.
So some of the really cool perks with these 1099 gigs is like I would be doing IV hydration in penthouses up in downtown LA.
Beautiful.
And then when I get bored of that, then I can do more of like the home health, and I can start helping some of the patients that were in like the neighborhood where my mother lives at. Yeah. And so it's just the diversity.
There's so much variety in the people, the different types of people, the different kind of locations.
Yes. Yeah. I've taken care of people through 1099 gigs in the Los Angeles County all the way up to Ventura County, which is like 150-mile radius. Like I've been, if I showed you my Google Maps and all the stars that I have on it for where my job is taking me, I've been everywhere.
And then you deduct all that mileage, right? Or your vehicle expenses, one or the other.
Yes. Yeah. That's my clothes, if I go out with friends, if I go out with like a potential partner or something like that, then the meals and things like that also take that into account.
Right. That is so nice. So that adds up to a lot when you're living the life and you're working and then you're traveling during your work. Yeah. And then you're deducting all of that stuff day to day. At the end of the year, your taxable income is so low,
Yeah. I didn't know this until when I was younger and I first did it. I did home health and then I did private care. So I had a private care case, and I was 1099 with them for 2 years. And that's all I did while I was going to school. So I worked night shift with them.
Yeah.
And then during the day I went to school, and that's what gave me the freedom, because I was like, hey, well, we can just change my schedule, make it fit for the family. And I was young and naive, and I didn't know about 1099 as much as I do now, but I wasn't saving as much as I was for taxes. And before they put in my deductions, they gave me this tax bill of like $10,000.
Yes.
And I was a 22-year-old kid. I was like, what?
You're like, oh my Lord.
No. I was like, I'm going to sell my car. How am I going to work? Anyways. And then they started asking me about my deductions. And fortunately enough, that brought my tax bill down to almost nothing. And that's when a light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, I need to figure out how to keep doing this.
Yeah. Because instead of giving a third of your paycheck away to taxes, you're keeping your paycheck, and then your expenses are your deductions.
Yeah. And it's not until it happens to you the first time where you're like, oh, this is different.
This is good.
This is good. This is a better way of living.
I found that too. I love that. Well, what about, so you also found job mobility, it sounds like you said you could work in different locations and.
Yes. So on my phone, I have like a little section where I've named it like my RN hustle, my like a collection of apps
I love that.
I have. And so one of the agencies that I'm working with right now is Care Rep, right? They offer 1099 for nurses. I can pick up ER shifts with them all throughout the area. So some are at Kaiser, some are at like up in Ventura. And then there's another app called Medley, and Medley is nothing but, well, they do ER as well. They have contracts, but they're 1099. So you can do like GI lab, pre-op, post-op, PACU, and those are like 8-hour shifts. Some of them are 4-hour shifts. And they offer a higher rate than some of the staff jobs that are out there, but you keep everything, like you get everything up front,
right?
Untaxed. And then it's up to you to decide, like, you know, how it fits your tax deductions. So you get to keep more at the end of the day.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you're not paying taxes along the way. You wait till like quarterly, you kind of look and see where you're at and guesstimate.
Yes. Yeah. And then even now, so for me, some of the people like maybe, well, that's a lot of driving and this and that. Like I'm actually looking to upgrade my car, because I've had the same car that I started home health with in 2010. I have it still. And I have 200,000 miles on it. And now I'm looking at like section 179, and I'm talking to my CPA, and I'm like, well, how can I make this work for my business? I need a car that's going to be durable. So there's ways to upgrade.
Section 179 is wonderful. That's that bonus depreciation, right?
Yes. And I'm still learning about it, but yes. Yeah. I'm
looking because normally depreciation, you take the cost of the vehicle and then the value of it in 5 years. Yeah. And you divide that by 5, that difference there. And then that's how much you can normally depreciate every year, which means you deduct it from your taxes.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money.
It is.
I mean, and so, but if you take all of that up front, you're deducting like $25,000 in the first year.
Yeah, depending. And then also they call it the Hummer tax, I guess. If it's over 6,000 pounds, it can be up to 100% if you use it for 100% of business use.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm talking about my CPA. I actually have. You're
learning this good stuff.
I'm learning on the go. And then I start talking about this kind of stuff with other nurses in the hospitals. And like, it'll be just a conversation between you and me. And by the time I'm finished, I have like 6 people behind me. Like everyone's like,
how did you do that? Yes. Exactly.
So people want to know this. They
want to know.
They don't know somebody who knows this. And then, but once they do, it lights a spark in them. And they're like, wait, what were you talking about?
And they start seeking.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I created the 1099 registered nurse, Success Academy.
Yes, we need this. We need this.
We all need this. It will bring us up. How do you feel inside when you tell people you're an independent contractor?
Oh, I love it. It's if they're like, wait, what are you talking about? It's like, that's possible. And I'm like, yes, like it is like meet me after work. Let's go talk about it, over some drinks. We'll go out for like a lunch or something.
Yeah.
It feels really good. And because like I just made the plunge. October 15th was my last day as a staff nurse. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And then October 17th is like when I started my 1099 like gig picking up shifts. And I've been very happy. My family has noticed how much happier I am.
Really?
My family, yes. My significant other right now, the mother of my 2 beautiful children.
Nice.
She's just like, you know what? You're not as stressed as been like over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
She's like noticed like in general.
When you're 1099, you don't own all the problems of your workplace.
Yeah, exactly.
You just go in there and take care of your patients.
Hey, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
And then
that's why I got in this. I got in this to take care of people.
Yeah.
And then the politics of your workplace, you kind of drag on you when you get home, and I don't deal with that anymore.
It's so much more pure.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you're the epitome of the freedom. So how hard is it to find the 1099 jobs if you don't go through these apps?
If you don't go through these apps, okay, so I've done this. It's not that hard once you kind of like, if for whatever reason I couldn't find a 1099 position working in the emergency department, I would just, my bread and butter is home health. I literally just call up agencies and I'm like, hey, you need an IV nurse? Like, if you have any IV patients, I'll gladly do it. If they say yes, okay, cool, we start.
So you just show up and start an IV and give an infusion?
Exactly.
And DC it and leave?
Pretty much, that's it. Yeah. So I've had it where I've done concierge nursing where people pay for IV hydration. Yeah. And then I've done it for oncology patients that need their home infusions. I go in, I start it, and then I just monitor them for like 30 to an hour. And then if the treatment's done, I leave. Or if they have a trained caretaker, I just kind of provide patient education. So it's not just like IV hydration. It's like, yeah, you actually can do a lot of the clinical stuff you would do in the hospital in people's,
Yeah, that sounds fulfilling.
Yeah, and honestly, it's just looking up home health agencies near you, and then a home health agency can do. Some of them only specialize in geriatric care. Some of them only specialize in IV hydrations. Others oncology, and it's just there's so many. It's just calling agencies, and even you don't even need the experience as a 1099. But to get started, you can call a home health agency and be like, "Hey, I'm looking to start. Do you do 1099?" And it's as simple as that, and they'll let you know right away.
And they love it, right? Because they don't want to have to pay all those benefits.
Yes, yeah. And there is such a demand. Like, and once you make a contact with one person, the person that you make contact with in the home health agency, once you befriend them, typically it's like, what does Grant Cardone say? People with contacts equals contracts is what Grant Cardone says. So the more people you know, they'll kind of like, hey, I know this nurse. They're really good at this. Go ahead and give them a call. Because at one point in time, I was working for 6 different agencies, 1099. But I didn't know I didn't know I was doing it. Yeah. And so that's how I kept myself busy. I was just always seeing patients, but it was whenever I wanted to see them, Right.
So you had a schedule of availabilities. When you were available, then that's when you would work.
Yeah. I would call them up like, I can only see patients Monday to Wednesday. After that, I'm completely off. And then they understand that, okay, this is it. And then they'll try to kind of what they do with the staff people, like, hey, can you see somebody Thursday, Friday, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, Monday to Wednesday, those are my days that I'm working with you. And that is it. And they can't, they're like, they just work with you. They have no choice. Right.
Because that's when you're available and they want to keep you in their loop,
Yes.
You're valuable to them. Yeah. So how about, is it difficult to negotiate rate? Are you finding that you're getting paid as well as a 1099 as you were a W-2?
When I left, when I left my W-2, I tripled my income.
You tripled your income.
I tripled my income. Because right now I'm doing these travel contracts. Yeah, but I'm doing local travel. So one of the issues that people have when it comes to a W-2 travel is there's this unofficial rule, this 50-mile rule I couldn't find it in the IRS code. I don't know. I till this day, I haven't been able to get somebody to quote me where this 50-mile rule comes from. When you're W-2, agencies will tell you this thing where you have to be further than 50 miles from your home. That doesn't apply to 1099. So when I started looking at 1099 contracts, and I looked at the income potential there, I was like, it's a no-brainer. So when I made the jump, my salary tripled, and I got to take my family for a little vacation within 2 weeks.
Your salary tripled, your taxation decreased. All you had to do is set up a savings account, right? And start just putting little bits in there, just let it drip on in there.
Yep. And even that, to be honest, I can't as too much. I'm not even spending all the money I'm making. It's like I have my savings account. I'm not even touching because I'm still keeping my cost of living the same. And so I have my savings within a month and a half. I had 6 months worth of emergency fund, which I would always struggle as a W-2 employee.
Right. And yet working so hard. Yes. And how about, have you found any workplaces that you're like, that's not like where I want to go make my hours?
Yeah. Yeah, the IV hydration, the concierge ones where it paid really nicely, but I didn't necessarily enjoy the clientele.
Yeah.
They were a little bit too bougie for me. They're
Yeah, I got you. And some people
so
might enjoy that,
some people.
but you like to
I
feel like you're making a positive difference.
Yes, I like to take care of people who are in need, So
Yeah.
that's where I go. I go to the people who may not have the resources, and I actually have like the knowledge to kind of just educate them. So I choose to work with low income populations because like I grew up like what is it? My parents came to the States in the 90s, so I'm like first generation here. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So I grew up around that environment where, you know, the disenfranchised and the very, very low income and like the homeless and things like that. And that's who I like to take care of. I say my people, mi gente.
That's right.
You know, I like to take care of mi gente.
You have a passion.
Yes. And
It
which
is
is
so
why
beautiful.
I love emergency nursing, because people come in and they need help. And
Yeah.
I want to help people that want the help and need the help. And that's
And
what
now
I do.
in emergency nursing, do you think the money is, aren't you, when you're in home health, don't you get paid per case?
Yes, you do.
And is it likely for the same amount of time that you get paid more money when you're in an emergency nursing situation, or not necessarily?
It has potential to, yes. So the difference would be, so one of the reasons why I went to ER nursing as 1099 was because I didn't want to drive as much for the time being. I wanted to go to one place and then just put my hours in there and then go home. When you do home health, you really have to be your time management. So some of these nurses that are maybe watching this are a staff nurse, right? And they're med surg nurses or ICU nurses, and it's all time management. It's the same thing everything you do.
Totally.
When I did home health, I had appointments, and I had to estimate my driving time, the amount of time I was going to spend with the patient, driving back, doing my notes, seeing the next patient. And it has potential to make as much as 1099 inside of a hospital, but it's just a lot more driving around. And there's a lot more factors. You know, you get hungry, so you stop at at this place to eat, or maybe you don't have good internet and documentation. So there's like some pros and cons to both. I like home health for being in people's homes and helping them out. It does have the potential. At some point I was getting paid like $200 a visit. Yeah. And I was in there for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, you know, and that's doing the start of care or the discharges or the resumption of cares, you know. So yeah, on average, a home health nurse here in California, Los Angeles, the start of care is around maybe like 120 to 200 a visit. Yeah. And you can see up to like 6 to 7 patients. And that's like an 8-hour shift. Like you're driving around for 8 hours doing that in the notes. So
playing your music, getting the fresh air,
listening to podcasts.
I know. Oh, that is so cool. You get some good me time.
Yeah. So it's like, podcast.
So you're getting the variety. You're going to the ERs, you're going to the home health care, you're doing some infusion therapy. So you're calling your shots. Pretty much. And then do you have, is it challenging to negotiate your rate? Do you have any issues with that, or how does that work? I don't have trouble. In home health, it's a lot easier to negotiate your rate. Like there's like the base rate that everyone can expect. But when the agency is in need of a nurse, like very last minute, that's when you have a little bit more negotiating power. Because it's, you know, like I live in LA, and some of the times they would want me to go over to Glendale, and that's like a 40-minute drive for me. So I'm like, you negotiate, hey, I wasn't planning on working today. If you really do want to see me, you have to compensate me for my time, not just the visit, but for my time. I got to drive there, got to do this, I come back and this and that. And then they're like, oh, we'll get back to you. And then, you know, they try to kind of find somebody else. And then if they don't, then okay, all right, then we'll do it. Right. You know, and because a lot of times they'll pay you, you can say, you know what, I want you to compensate me for my time, 15 minutes from the time I leave my house. Yes. And then all the way to 15 minutes before I get back home. Yeah. So, and then some of these agencies, they have apps associated with their company. They'll track your mileage for you, and then they'll compensate you. They'll compensate you for that mileage. Yeah. You know, and so either way, it's all good. Yes. Yeah. What about, have you done any independent negotiating with the hospital without being a part of an agency or with an ASC? Not yet. I actually have a meeting with a manager sometime next week. And it's going to be my first attempt. Oh, good. And tell us a little bit about that. So that one is going to be, it is a level 1 trauma center, the biggest one in Los Angeles County. And it's kind of it's
it was my former staff job.
Love it. And they actually are open to hiring 1099ers.
Yeah. So when I left, right before I left, they took on a bunch of travel nurses, and everyone I talked to was W2.
Right.
Until I met one guy. I met one guy in there, and I was just talking taxes, like I mentioned before. You start talking taxes,
sure.
and get interested, and he kind of gave me this look like, and he gave me this nod, and I was like, oh, that guy knows something.
Yeah.
So I go and I start talking to him, and then he tells me he's 1099 at the hospital that I'm working at. And so he starts telling me how he does it, and it's just how you lead on to it. You have to make certain calls. Don't call HR. You have to kind of get in contact with like the manager or like the DON or somebody who's like in a higher position and really knows the needs of the department. And so that's where I'm gonna go talk to the nurse manager.
And they need you. They need you so much.
Yes. Especially
they're gonna just embrace you. So just like get ready. They're gonna need you.
Fingers crossed.
I'm telling you, because think about it. They're having to pay so much for travel nurses. And 1099 nurses, they get paid well.
Yes.
But you actually make more money than a highly paid travel W-2 nurse because of the amount of money you get to keep that you're not taxed on.
Yes.
So even though your negotiated number might be somewhere in between, usually it's 40% over a W-2 staff.
Yes.
And you can actually negotiate up to what a travel nurse makes.
Yeah. Yes.
Sometimes even a little bit over that if it's a real crisis. So that's your ballpark, that's where you start. You start high and then you think about it.
Yeah. Yes. And I've been kind of researching it. Everything you said is exactly what I've been listening to, where you may not be getting paid as much as the W-2 travel next to you, but they get taxed so heavily. So it's not so much. One of the things I always tell myself, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep.
Exactly. That is brilliant.
And that is
100%.
1099 does for you. You get to keep so much.
Right. Well, I tell you what, I have so enjoyed talking to you. You really epitomize the success story that I just want to show people. I was a 1099 registered nurse for 10 years. I fell into it in much the same way. And I was so proud when I said, oh, I'm an independent contractor.
Yes.
Something about that just made me feel lighter and I was happier, know? So I really think that it's the direction. We're in a gig economy now.
Yeah, we are.
And it's being very accepted. So it's time for nurses to step into it. And really, it pulls up our respect. So that's where I'm at with it. Money, respect, save on taxes. It's a beautiful thing.
We have so much more power than we're aware of. Like we're in such demand. Since I can remember going to LVN school, all I heard about was the nursing shortage from 2010, and how it's expected to get worse and worse and worse. And even going through my LVN to RN bridge program, same thing. And it's the same story. Almost a decade later, and then now we're really seeing it. And I know managers from the hospitals, and I'm meeting nurses that are charge nurses from different hospitals. Everywhere, everyone is hurting for nurses.
Yes. You speak to those people in charge, and they're going to talk to the people that are the powers that be, and they're going to get you in there.
That's how I got my contract. They wanted me to pick up a few per diem shifts, and I was like, well, I'm thinking about travel. And she's like, no, come with me. And I was like, yeah, sure, all right, okay. And then now I'm here, and then I have a contract with them as 1099 up until maybe May.
Nice.
May, yeah.
And
then I said, they asked me to do 4 days a week. I was like, I can only do 3. They wanted me to do night shifts. I'm like, I can do maybe like early AM shift. And everything I've asked for, I've gotten.
Absolutely. Because they don't want to run you off because you are so valuable.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Michael. I really appreciate it. And I want to catch up with you maybe in a couple of months and just check on you, see how you're doing.
Yeah.
Would you like to do that? Oh, that'd be great.
100%.
Thank you so much. Well, I'll look for you on the 1099 Registered Nurse Success community on Facebook. And, let your friends know about it. Send me messages. I'm glad to invite anyone who's interested in this type of lifestyle. The more hospitals that hear people like you step in, then the more common this is going to be.
Yeah, I see it. I can see it definitely going that way.
Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Totally. So nice to meet you. Well, you and your family, you take care, and I'll talk to you in a couple of months.
Thank you. All right. I'm seeing you in a couple
Have a
months.
beautiful day.